Do you follow Unusual Will or Nancy Pelosi stock tracker on Twitter?
No, I don't.
Okay. So just yesterday, NVIDIA was trending. And when I went on Twitter, I was like, why is NVIDIA trending? Like, and I saw that Unusual Will published a tweet saying that Nancy Pelosi bought 5 million worth of NVIDIA calls. And I'm like, what? NVIDIA is like at all-time high, man. Like, why will someone be buying a call at this point? I was like, this is crazy. And I started reading into it. I think there are some risk, but given Nancy Pelosi's track record, this might be some of the best moves as well.
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw the tweet as well because I was checking the trends on Twitter, and to be honest with you, my thought were, I would say, quite similar to yours because based on what I've seen in the past few months, I thought in the coming years or in the coming months, the whole Nvidia stock is going to be plateauing or growing at the market level.
Right.
So placing that huge bet on it, I was a little bit surprised, to be honest with you. But I mean, in terms of Nancy Pelosi's background, I know that her husband is in venture capital, but I'm not really familiar with what they've done in the past. I'm sure you know more on that.
Well, so if anybody knows the story about the Nancy Pelosi tracker Twitter account, well, Nancy Pelosi, according to her past performance in the stock market, she is better than Warren Buffett. Okay. Nancy Pelosi makes 180K a year as a congresswoman, but she's worth more than 280 million.
Yeah, that's a
If
lot
I
of
get
money.
the numbers right. Yep, actually 290 million, even better. Even Buffett is not able to make the returns that Nancy Pelosi is making. I'm not gonna go into details.
No,
You,
I mean, I don't want to dive into that, but what she's doing is very what's the name? Is very short term, kind of driven. Where Warren Buffett is more like a long term kind of investor. But yeah, that's for another video. But yeah, let's come back to
definitely,
what you're talking about.
definitely. But again, she is proving that she's a very good stock trader. So we cannot ignore her moves. That's why she has like multiple Twitter accounts dedicated to her trades. Okay. So
Mm.
let's dive into it.
Yeah. So I mean, why do you think this is a good trade for you? Why do you think that?
For me, on the positive side, right? Nvidia is very well placed right now. If you've looked at the stock in the past year, it has almost quadrupled, right? So if you own any of that stock, you are really doing well right now. Nvidia is the leader in AI, like providing the compute for AI. Nvidia is the best. There is a scarcity of Nvidia GPUs right now because the demand for GPUs for the AI ecosystem is so high that and Nvidia is like so well positioned that everybody wants those GPUs, but most people cannot get them. And there are like small startups right now. They have bought some of these GPUs and they are selling the compute online. So basically, let's say you have a small startup and you need some GPUs, you can go to these companies and just like AWS, you can buy the compute and they'll sell the compute to you like maybe like 5 operation per second or something like that, and you pay for that basically.
Okay. And by compute, what do you mean by compute exactly? I'm just trying to understand.
So the
Or
compute is basically the place where your model will run.
okay.
Just think of it as calculation, right? So all these computers, all these GPUs are good at
Hmm.
making computation, like 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
That's basically what it means. So all this model, all this AI model, they need this computation power to run. And NVIDIA has the best product for doing this, which are the GPUs.
Okay. So basically, what you are saying is that the demand is there. There is a huge demand there.
There is a
And
demand, but they cannot keep up with the demand, basically.
okay, so there is a
There's
supply issue then.
exactly there's
Uh,
a supply
okay,
issue.
cool. And when we talk about GPUs, right, I've always thought about Intel. Doesn't Intel play in this sector? Why is it very much dominated by?
Okay, let me just start from the beginning. NVIDIA started by making GPUs for mainly graphics. Like they name GPUs even has the name graphic in it, graphic processing units, right? So it was mainly for gaming and making like 3D rendering and stuff like that. So that was the main purpose. That's how they started the company, for graph. But with time, they began diversifying their business. One thing that the GPUs were offering was parallel processing. So if you are in IT or any type of engineering like that has to do with computers, you know there is sequential computation and there is parallel computation. Sequential computation is basically you make one computation and that computation will depend on the next computation, or the next computation will depend on the previous computation. So the answer, the output from the previous computation is required for the will be the input for the next computation. Okay. Parallel computation means that you can have multiple computation happening at the same time because they don't have any dependencies. And AI relies a lot on parallel computation. And NVIDIA figured, hey, you have these GPUs that do only that. Parallel computation is all they do.
Mm.
So NVIDIA quickly noticed that, okay, there is all this research in all these universities on AI. Let me just give these GPUs out so that they can use them in their research. And that's how it started. So in 2004, 2005, a group of researchers in Stanford came up with a language that will allow people to write code for GPUs, basically. And one of the lead researchers was later hired by NVIDIA. And he ended up using some of his research to build their platform, which is
Yeah,
called CUDA.
CUDA. Okay.
Yeah. And CUDA stands for Compute Unified Device Architecture.
Okay, okay. So on the sequential side, right? So
Right.
Intel, most of the Intel's GPU do sequential stuff. Is that the point we are trying to make here, or not?
Intel's business was centered around microprocessors for personal computers. And in most architecture of a computer, you'll have especially if it is a personal computer that is geared towards gaming, for example, you will need a GPU to render the game. Like, especially if the game has that very good graphics, you will need sometimes a dedicated GPU to process those calculation and give you a good render of the game. Intel wasn't too much into that business. They had GPUs, but they didn't have dedicated GPUs. Okay. So in the Intel architecture of their processors, they will have integrated GPUs. So they will have a small GPU integrated inside the processor that they sell. So if you think of Intel Core 2, Duo, Pentium, and all those, they all have these small GPUs that were integrated in them.
Okay.
But NVIDIA is just all about GPUs.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, the thing that's weird for me here is that, for such big companies, especially Intel, right? I know that AI has been around for a few years now, and now is getting a little bit more mainstream. But if you are a company, usually these companies invest in R&D, and with these
Right.
R&Ds, they try to make like new product and also check what's gonna be the next big product on the market or the next big niche. So
Right.
my thought is, I mean, why didn't they notice this? Well, how did they miss that? Basically, do you have any kind of thought on that?
So my thought is that they saw it, but they didn't pay any attention to it. They thought it wasn't going to be anything big.
Now, obviously, the big misses for Intel,
Mm.
right? When you think about it, we missed the mobile wave. We had like 5 different AI acquisitions we did, right? And when I was pushed out of the company, we killed the one that would have made all the difference in the world. So to me, those are the two monster trends that Intel missed, and we were fundamentally biased to building a great foundry. Okay? So, those to me are the three massive ones that Intel was uniquely, positioned to benefit from. And hey, the CEO or two from now will look back and say Pat was an idiot because he didn't see this and didn't jump on it at the right time. So, these things are hard. You don't get them all right.
Okay.
Because you have to remember, AI has been around for a very long time. Even though a lot of people are now just talking about it. When I was in school, that was one of my classes. That's back in 2008, right? AI was there before I was in school, like, more than 20 years. Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but because it didn't make any good progress during that time, Intel really didn't pay attention to it. Intel was more into selling their microprocessors. So you remember just 3 or 4 years ago, even Apple computers were using Intel microprocessors.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a simple way to say this, right, for the normal people listening, is just to compare it to Nokia and Apple. So basically, Apple came around with
The
the
touch screen.
the touch screen and everything, while Nokia was just there focusing on useless stuff. And
Right,
now where are they? Right, I haven't seen
right,
any Nokia phone in ages. Right.
right.
So I think is very much the same thing. So I mean, in terms of like how they develop this kind of competitive advantage on the AI market, right? You talked a little bit about how they were sending their stuff, their GPUs to universities and etc. etc. And basically, so the goal for them here, was it to get their product known, or what was the goal exactly? Is it to test the product, or I'm not sure.
So the good thing about this is that they are GPUs weren't just hardware. They provided the software platform, which is the CUDA language that I was telling you about. And that's kind of gave flexibility to researchers to write code and actually test their hypothesis, right? At some point, some university students were doing some kind of AI competition and they are trying to do some computer vision work. And they coded the AI on a normal computer and they coded another version of that same AI with NVIDIA GPUs. And the performance was way in advance compared to a normal PC.
I see.
So NVIDIA took that as a good signal, right? Imagine you have a product and you can only sell it in one segment, right? And all of a sudden you just discover that, okay, not only can you sell it in this segment, but this same product, without you having to change anything, can also be useful to solve this problem as well. So very early, NVIDIA, I think in 2012, NVIDIA realized the benefit of having GPUs as part of building an AI ecosystem. So they began making a lot of investment in that area.
Okay. Okay. I mean, so basically, what you've said so far is that in terms of like positioning, Nvidia is literally the only one on this market. I mean, there are others, but they are the main one. They are the main one that have the product that can run, all the AI stuff, and they are very very well positioned, right? So this is, I mean, if you think of this and then go back to Nancy Pelosi's tweet, you will say that this is a really really good one, right? But there is one thing that you mentioned as well, which is about the scarcity of NVIDIA GPUs. So
Right.
if NVIDIA were, the main player of this market, right? I was just thinking that producing or manufacturing this product should be quite straightforward for them to kind of meet the demand. Is this something that they are doing willingly, or are they just playing with supply and demand, or is just very very difficult to manufacture these GPUs?
Right. So just think about this, right? Since 2012, a lot of people have been using NVIDIA GPUs to train their AI models for almost 10 years now. Actually, 11 years. We are going into the 12th year, right? So all these researchers are so used to using NVIDIA GPUs. And now, just last year, all of a sudden, everybody wants to know about AI. OpenAI just made this big splash.
Mm.
Everybody is talking about ChatGPT, generative AI. Everybody is crazy about AI. So it's like someone found gold somewhere and they told like a bunch of people who are looking for gold and
Yeah,
everybody just said, hey, I'm gonna go and dig for gold. That's basically what is happening. But
yeah,
not
yeah,
everybody can have the gold. The gold in this picture that I'm painting is the AI, right? And the shovel to dig for the gold is the GPUs
yeah.
that NVIDIA produces.
Hmm.
Now, think of it like this. Usually you have a demand for 1,000 shovels every month, and all of a sudden you have demand for 100,000 shovel in 1 month. You have to think about it. So that's one thing. The demand is way bigger than the supply. Okay. Number two, NVIDIA designs their own GPUs and chips, right? But they don't manufacture them. They rely on Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company to get their GPUs manufactured. So even though everything is designed in California, they rely on TSMC to deliver these chips. And TSMC doesn't have only one customer. Actually, Apple is one of the biggest customer of TSMC. TSMC makes all the Apple microprocessors for the iPhones and now for the Macs as well, the M1, M2, M3 chips. So if you are relying on one,
Yeah, so
one manufacturer,
that was the question that I was going to ask you. So aren't there like other players that can do the same thing basically, or is it the same as the way Nvidia kind of developed their GPUs, where they spent years investing in this thing, and then they managed to. I mean, what What's the reason here, basically?
All right. So the chip fabrication, right, is a very difficult process. It requires very skilled people in the field. And it's not just by accident that TSMC is a main company that is doing this. There are other companies, but they have the latest technology. And for every type of chip, they have a process. And they have mastered this process for different type of customers like Apple, NVIDIA, Intel, even AMD, all these guys. They all have their process. And to produce one chip is not just the chip. There are like other components that are involved. You need to kind of source all the materials that are required for the fabrication of the chip. So TSMC has managed to standardize these processes for all their customers. So think of this like NVIDIA GPUs will have many chips on there. Imagine you take that same design and go to another manufacturer. How long is it going to take you to get it within a time where you have the highest demand ever
Yeah.
since the inception of the company?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that could be also the fact that NVIDIA doesn't want to share their design or patent or blueprint basically with other manufacturers, because I believe Intel did something similar in the past regarding their small, you know,
Memory chips, yep.
yeah, memory chips, and then the loss quite a bit regarding that.
Yeah. So one fun fact is this: when TSMC was started, the CEO of TSMC promised to all their customers that they will never become a competitor to them. So if you take a company like Intel, Intel not only design their own chips or microprocessors or CPUs, but they also manufacture them. When Intel started, one of the first success they had was developing memory chips. And they were facing the same thing that Nvidia is facing now. They had so much demand that the only way to meet the demand was to outsource their design and get other companies to manufacture the memory chip for them. But by doing that, those companies became competitors. That's why today you have many companies that can produce computer memory. You have many companies that can do that, but
Yeah,
very few companies can actually produce CPUs, GPUs, and other stuff like that. So
yeah,
Intel learned from that, even though they outsourced part of their CPU design to AMD. So AMD didn't come up with their own processors either. They are using Intel designs to manufacture their CPUs.
yeah.
And
As
Nvidia has learned
Go ahead,
from
go ahead.
that. And if I were in the same shoes as Nvidia, I wouldn't do that either. Like I don't want to create competitors for myself.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that's very very important in terms of, like, let's say 101 strategy, right? When you outsource your stuff, you can be at the risk of turning your product into commodity. So
Right.
basically, in terms of like Intel's kind of small processors, they are all over the place now. Like everybody can do them, and the value just really decrease. So
Yeah, the
I mean, go
memories you mean.
yeah, memory, sorry.
Yeah.
So basically, going back to Nancy Pelosi's tweet again, I mean, whether this is a good move or not. So first we say that Nvidia is like very very well positioned now. I mean, Intel is not really playing there. They missed the boat, so positioning is amazing. Second thing, the supply chain is really solid. They have one supplier that really masters, that
Right.
mastered like how to produce their GPUs. So that's really, really good. And that's basically driving the demand. The supply is very, very little,
Right.
and the demand is very, very high. So that's really, really good for them. I'm just thinking of other things that could be really, really good for this, or that can, explain the reason why, Nancy Pelosi's are kind of buying this stock basically. Do you have any other things in mind beside these two that we mentioned?
So the demand for AI or for AI based product is not going to stop, right? It just started. So in the coming years, there are going to be more discoveries, more inventions that will come out of AI. Just think about it, like how many AI products do you even use today? Like just a year ago, nobody knew about ChatGPT. ChatGPT grew to 100 million users in about 3 months, the fastest growing product on the planet ever, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I
So,
mean, I do agree with what you said though, but my worry is based on what you just explained on the supply chain. Can Microsoft or OpenAI scale ChatGPT and AI in general because they need this product, right? But the supply is
Right.
very little.
Right. You can actually see that today in your usage of OpenAI. If anybody who is paying for GPT Plus, right, and let's say you use it the whole day, at some point it's going to cut you off. It's going to tell you that you have used your allocated
Token,
number
right?
of queries for the day, and you can't use it anymore till the next day. You can use GPT 3.5, but you can use GPT 4. GPT 4 is a bigger model. So a bigger model requires more powerful GPUs. And the difficulty is that the availability of those GPUs is very limited. Google has billions of queries every day. If OpenAI was to do the same, the bills for them that Microsoft will have to charge them will be crazy. So
I see.
their service basically cannot support many people using their services over a certain threshold. So
Yeah.
that actually tells you about the scarcity of GPUs right now.
Yeah. But do you think this is gonna change in the future though? Because if this doesn't change, how will the stock grow? I mean, how will the company gain more value if this is still the same?
Thank you for watching. We hope you have enjoyed the content. Remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. In the next part of this podcast, we will analyze the relationship between ARM, NVIDIA, Apple, and TSMC. Subscribe to get notified when we post the video.